Second chance romance, with the age gap trope thrown in. I met my husband in less than ideal circumstances. I was receiving chemo treatment for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he was the one of the hematologists in my medical care team, the registrar. He was so kind, gentle, and patient, in contrast to my rather abrupt consultant, that before long, I was seriously crushing on him. There was something there on his side, too, but ethics was an issue, and we both knew it. We formed a friendship, and he spent a lot of time off the clock talking to me and accompanying me in my hospital room, but it never got physical beyond the comforting pat touch or two. We promised to stay in touch after my treatment was completed, 8 months after, and my primary care was transferred solely to my consultant. But I was apprehensive, and also thinking he probably didn't feel as strongly as I did, and after the first few texts, calls, we just lost touch. He also moved to another province for further training, so that was that. We met again 6 years later, by chance, at a medical ball, where we were both platonic plus ones of others. We ditched our dates and spent the whole night catching up, as well as the next night, and the night after that, and beyond. He told me he never really forgot about me, and was glad for another chance, providing that I gave it to him. Not surprisingly, I did. And here we are, 5 years married. He's 11 years older than I am, and coincidentally, he was also my brother-in-law's boss.
I met my current fiancé when I was with my ex. Fiancé was the cute lead singer guitarist of a popular local band, but he had a bit of a drinking problem at the time, and I wasn't single, so I thought nothing of it. Ran into him a few times over the years at shows, always had a teeny crush on him. He was really confident and musically talented. There was something magical about the energy his music could bring to a crowd, how he could have a room full of people moshing, dancing, and singing along. The ex-boyfriend ended up tapering off his affection the last 6 months of our relationship until I broke up with him. Later, I realized he didn't have sex with me because I gained weight. Was single for a while, started going to the gym and eating healthy, lost the weight, ran into the cute but a little emotionally damaged musician again. The rest is history. Turns out he is a huge teddy bear. Forehead kisses, random foot massages, takes me to the library whenever I ask, surprise flowers, calls me beautiful out of nowhere, always asks how he can support me sorting through past trauma, huge big baby with my dog, not afraid to cry in front of me, has never once said anything to intentionally hurt me, always apologizes when he's in the wrong. I feel very loved all the time. Also, the sex is amazing and still frequent after 2 years. So I guess musician / friends to lovers / sunshine grumpy / cinnamon roll MMC. I also found out he also had a small crush on me all those years.
I went on a last-minute solo European backpacking trip. I swore no boys during the trip. I'd had a terrible year of dating, and I needed to do this trip for myself. I met this great guy in Portugal at the first hostel I stayed at, LOL. We were staying at the same place and hit it off immediately. It's a miracle we were able to meet. I decided last minute to travel, and he missed his flight to leave the country the day prior. We went our separate ways, but kept in touch. 2 weeks later, we changed our plans to meet again in France. The whole week together was perfect. He said he loved me in the Uber to the train station, and I returned it right before I got on my train. I was tearing up like a bitch because I thought I'd never see him again. He promised he'd find me again, though. Much to my surprise, we spent the next year doing long distance and trying to visit each other's countries when we could. Things were great. Then we were separated due to COVID. To finally live in the same country, we were going to get married despite not seeing each other in 2 years. All my friends thought I was crazy. In the end, we didn't have to. Visa stuff came through. Anyway, I'm now living with him in Australia, celebrating our 4-year anniversary soon. One of my favorites, though, is something that happened on our third date. We went to dinner and then a walk in our local park. It was late, so there was hardly anyone there, and I noticed that the playground was empty. I love swings, like love swings, and I hadn't done it since I was a kid. So I ran over and we sat down and talked while we swang. I was trying to be cute, so I was kind of half swinging, half swaying on the swing. Now I have the unique distinction of being quite athletic and also incredibly clumsy and prone to falling. So as I was swinging, I laughed a little too enthusiastically at one of his jokes and somehow managed to fall out of the swing and onto my face. Sand went up my nose. I ripped my favorite tights. There'd been a rock in the sand that I skinned my knee on. It wasn't a cute whoopsie fall. It was the kind of fall that knocks the wind out of you and makes you realize that you're not young anymore. I don't really ever get embarrassed. But let me say, guys, I was mortified. I just lay there coughing up sand, waiting to die. He jumped up and helped me to my feet, dusted me off, got worried about my slightly bleeding knee, and then starting laughing, like he couldn't even take it. He started cracking up, tears streaming down his eyes, clutching his stomach, belly laughing. He looked so handsome laughing and so happy, and just delighted by it all. I started laughing too. We laughed like that for probably 10 minutes, non-stop, unable to get any words out. Then, at some point, we just looked at each other, and suddenly everything was serious. I was right in front of him. The man is 6'4", and I'm 5'1" on a good day in shoes, so I'm looking up at him. We just stare at each other, because we both knew something had just happened. Something really important. We hadn't kissed yet. I was waiting for the third date. I basically had a neon sign over my head at that moment that said, "Kiss me, guys." That fool didn't kiss me. He should have, and I will make fun of him for it for the rest of our lives. We had our first kiss on the fourth date. 5 months later, we got married. We'll be together 3 years in a couple weeks. Our little boy is turning 1 year old next month. Every single day I love him more. And I'm so glad I fell out of that swing. I've told my own Renaissance Fair Insta-love story often enough in this sub, so here's my little sister's childhood sweetheart, second chance romance. They met at church when they were tweens, and were pretty soon sweet on each other. We all started hanging out together in our small town, and for several years, we'd see the pair holding hands at the skating rink, taking walks in the park, etc. It was adorable. These two little geeky kids and their connection. Our respective families became close. He, I'll call him T, started working part-time for our family business, etc., etc. When I got married, we set up the bridesmaids and groomsmen so that my sis and T could walk down the aisle together, and his mom, who played piano for our ceremony, got all excited. This is a preview of what's to come. And then he dumped her. They were 17. Neither of them had really dated other people. Expectations were high on them both, etc., etc. I have a feeling my nut-job family wasn't helping matters too. He headed off to college. My lil sis was, of course, devastated. And since it's a small town, and we have a public-facing business, we all had to hear people's opinions on it. She's an amazingly gracious and patient woman and carried on. Eventually, she met another dude at the skating rink, and they had a rather whirlwind romance. He was, well, more of a fixer-upper boyfriend. Charismatic and funny, but a troublemaker and kind of a tool. Once they were engaged, we started seeing red flags. Eventually, he stole from our family to support a growing coke habit, and then wrecked my sister's car about a month or two before their planned wedding. A rapid unengagement happened, and within a month, he managed to get a high schooler pregnant. So, Yay! Re-enter T. His college wasn't far away, so he came back into town often enough to hear the goss and heard that the wedding was off. Dare he hope? He had, of course, never stopped loving her. One day, he dropped off a letter and a mixtape at work for her. Groveling definitely happened, and lots of personal growth for them both. I'm fuzzy on the rest of the details because I was in another town by then, dropping brats, as Lord Dane would say. But the next thing I knew, there was a big romantic proposal at the park, and then another wedding planned. They've now been married 20 years and have 4 kids as weird and adorable as they were. He and she are full-time and irreplaceable at the fam biz. And for anyone who's worked with a SO and/or family, you know that is a challenge in and of itself. He's genuinely a brother to me, so I'm delighted that he bumbled his way back into our family. And he absolutely worships my sister. Last time I visited, he was lovingly putting together a little garden nook for her while she recovered from a surgery.